Hey there, you're listening to Yakkin with Nick. I am Nick Hazelton, and I am here with Richard Grove, who runs tragedyandhope.com. Richard is a friend of mine. We met back in was it? Yeah, it was last year's pork. It's not. Yeah, I can still remember. It would have been 2016 in Porkfest in New Hampshire. I've known about Rich for a while from the Peace Revolution podcast, which it got me into training martial arts and turned me on to some interesting ideas. Because if anybody's ever listened to that show, it's like you've had 23-hour long episodes, and it's very hard to listen to it. So I don't listen to it anymore. But that's where I first got introduced to Rich, and now we're in a mastermind group together, which I've talked about before. But we meet together and we talk about business and how can we solve each other's problems. And Rich has a pretty most of your career you've been involved in sales or entrepreneurship, it seems. So I thought you would be a great person to talk to about sales, because I'm trying to learn a little bit more about it. And I was really excited to get you on. But thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Nick, for the invitation.
So I guess what I'm curious about is I'd like the audience to know a little bit more about you. Where did you get started in sales? Like where were you learning the skills of trading value for value with people?
Well, I was in college and I was trying to pay for college. And at that point, I was sweating over a grill for like 12 hours a day. I wasn't truly sweating over the grill. I wasn't sweating on the food, but I was sweating while I was cooking cheesesteaks at Penn State. And there's like 100,000 people that show up for these games. This was the closest cheesesteak place to there. So anyway, on game day, we would have people lined up for like 2 hours outside waiting for a sandwich. And when you're working on those days, and you want to work on those days because you get good money because you're, working. But when you work on those days, it's just tedious. So I found myself trying to pay for school, working really hard, and I saw an ad in the newspaper for running your own business over the summer, learn how to be an entrepreneur. And it said you could make, I don't know, $5,000 or something, $10,000. I forget how much they baited me with. And I don't usually read the paper and look for ads. I was probably looking for like, what are the bar specials tonight or whatever, but I saw this ad. I went to this meeting. There was like 100 people in there that wanted one of these few positions. They put me through a series of interviews, and then I finally ended up getting the offer, which my parents convinced me to turn down because they said it was too much risk. I should just work at the restaurant over the summer. And that's like safe money, because running your own business is risky. And especially if your parents don't run their own business and they work in like the corporate world. My mom was a nurse, so it's like she wasn't no one taught her about this. She hadn't really seen anyone in our family do this. So they convinced me that it was like a safer bet for summer because I only have one chance during the summer to make money. And do I really want to risk it and then try to find a job if I fail? So I found myself, the job entailed teaching college students how to run their own business by using a business model that they could run during the summers when they're off, right? So in this case, it was painting houses. And on spring break, you could go home and start trying to find business for the summer. You could book your business. You could hire your client, your personnel. You could line up your clientele. And by the time school was done, you could start painting houses. And, you could produce like $10,000 a week of houses being painted, right? So it's a pretty lucrative business if they teach you right, like the right steps to go about it. And so I found that much more thrilling than working at a grill and being a short order cook. And I found a lot of freedom in it. And I found that if I could discipline myself to take action, that I could be much, much, much more successful than I could be in the very limited labor of cooking cheesesteaks or making Mexican food or whatever restaurant I was working at, depending on the time of year, whether I was at school or I was at home. So I really embraced it. But what I found interesting was after I graduated college, after I had run this business for several summers, I went into the corporate world, that it was like you're competing against people who have no training, no skills at all. Like it wasn't even a contest. I did very well because the guy who started the company that trained me, He used to be the vice president of sales for Xerox in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And he found in his job that he couldn't find any qualified applicants to work at Xerox because nobody was getting these skills any place in the job place. So he thought as an entrepreneur, he should leave that job and then start this company that trains entrepreneurs all over North America. And I think at one point he had 5,000 people who were doing like the position that I did, which was like a regional manager. And so I controlled a couple counties of painting. Well, the potential, you have a potential territory that includes a couple, a county or two counties in Western Pennsylvania. And you have the potential to convince people who need their houses painted to do business. But what you find is there's a method to it. All you have to do is provide a good service. And the way I did it was your house gets painted for free until you're 100% satisfied. I give you a report card at the end. You give me, a 100% rating. And if there's anything wrong, we'll fix it. And then you pay us. You don't even need to do a deposit, because I'd say 1% of the houses that we ever did like that ever gave us a problem. And the business is so much easier when you take the risk off the table and just say, look, I'm willing to perform and show you. I'm not making claims. I'm willing to perform and show you, and then you can pay me. So it was learning these types of techniques amidst college. Now, at that time, I was getting a business degree in college, a business degree that I can say has been worth, well, it hasn't been worth anything. It's been a liability, because my success in the corporate world, I would fully 100% attribute to the skills that I built running my own business. And there are benefits to working for somebody else when you're coming from running a house painting business, and you can translate those skills into a job that pays you hundreds of thousands of dollars a year working for a corporation. Now, as I learned, there are also limits and downsides and unforeseen obstacles in that terrain. And that's why I later changed course and ended up here on this podcast.
Yeah. So thank you. That's interesting to me. I knew that you painted houses, but I didn't know much else. So that's cool.
Well, let me just add, since you got that far with the story, I'm glad you retained that part. I painted houses. So I didn't take the job I was offered. I painted houses for the guy they gave the job to. And after a couple of weeks, it got so bad that I was like, I made the guy an offer, and he sold me his equipment and all the contracts that he didn't close. So he had done like 30 estimates that he didn't close. I called those people back, and I closed, I think, 27 out of 30 of those estimates. And that's when I knew, I can run my own business. Yeah, I could do this. I can employ my friends who are off for the summer of college. We can have a good time. We can all make good money. And it was probably one of the most beneficial experiences I had in school. Yeah.
I think that's pretty awesome. I think that's one of the most powerful realizations I've had so far, is that, wait a second, I can make money on my own. There's many ways to find, there's many little side hustle things like painting houses, or one of the ones I've come up with, which never really executed on, but I've recommended to a lot of other young people, is getting a pressure washer, and just knocking on people's doors. Say, hey, I noticed that your sidewalk is a little bit dirty. Give me $20. I'll do it in 30 minutes. So, but anyway, there's so many.
So let me, because this is Yakkin with Nick, right?
Yeah.
Let me build some value on that. You threw that down. Let me build a little value. Yes, pressure washer. It costs whatever, depending on what size you want. How many? $120. Right. I used to have a pressure washer for my business. So there's probably a painter out there that's renting a pressure washer all the time, and he doesn't like going to wash the house before he paints it. Team up with him. Every time he schedules a house, you give him some bulk deal where he puts you on retainer, and he gives you 2 days notice because he needs the house to dry out. You go wash the house for him, but you leave your card, because they might want their house washed sometime later after it gets painted, or sidewalk redone, or anything else you see there. You drop them a bid. You make them an offer. Part of being an entrepreneur is, if you have something of value and you believe in it, you should be making that offer to whoever you see might need your service, right? Because you ethically and morally can't help them until they're like, hey, I'll take you up on that, right?
Yeah. I think that really what it is what look at the
and what
look at the problems that exist.
You can't just go up and pressure wash their sidewalk without their permission.
Right.
Like, they have to invite you to do these things to their house for the hope that it's going to turn out better, and you have to take away the risk in case you mess it up. Show them that you have some sort of insurance, or that you've messed up a customer before, and after you fixed it, all you asked them for was a reference letter. Yes, this guy's imperfect. He makes mistakes, but he also fixes them and takes responsibility. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then these are things that help you close more deals, because you're going to hear, if you go out and, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was still ranting about your
no worries. I wasn't going to add anything there.
Hypothetical power washing business.
Yeah.
My point is, you're thinking in the right direction, but you could think bigger, because to wash a house is like $250, $300.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely.
4 washes, you pay for the best pressure washer. You have that piece of equipment for years. You can make thousands of dollars on it. That's called an investment. Buying the Xbox or the next whatever, that's a liability.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's brilliant. I really like that idea, and I know exactly. I know exactly the contractors I would talk to too. I mean, there's so many people you could just go ahead of, and you find
okay, so
any issue in the world.
You again, but check this out, dude. You have that vision in your mind right now. You know contractors you could go to. You could have a business, get a pressure washer, have somebody that needs a job say, I'm going to split it with you. You got 50% equity in the pressure washer. You got 50% equity in the labor. Now you got a partnership, and that person can be out there earning you money every day. Yeah. And you could probably use a pressure washer on the farm, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We use it to, we use pressure washers to get the fat off of yak hides.
That's right, dude. I remember you talking about that. That's a good one. That's better
so we
than,
do need one anyway.
The scraping knife, the skinning knife, the 2-handled one. Yes.
It's a lot easier.
So but these are the pressure washer. That's what Nick and I are saying.
Yeah, exactly. Now I think it's a really good business idea. That's one of those things that's been in my mind. I love that. Yeah, that's the going to and finding those painters, and that's a really good partnership to build. That's a really good idea. That's got to be. One of these days. I've thought, me and my dad, we want to write a book of just the random little side business ideas that come up, and this is how you would flush out a business plan and just sell those. But anyway, no, I think that's a really good idea. I think really it comes down to is it's looking at what needs to be taken care of. There are issues that aren't being dealt with enough or in the right way. Finding those issues, and if you have a unique solution. Or not, maybe not even a unique one, but a solution that's effective, then of course it's worth value. And as long as you can demonstrate that to people, then hey, there you go. You can exchange that value for more value for you. That's the simplest way to put it, I think. Or everybody one way
in a creative direction that builds your dreams, as opposed to carrying out orders at work. Like for instance, if you're running a painting business, and this is something that anybody sitting on a couch unemployed can do. It's not a huge skill set. There's a couple steps. It's a method. It's a system. You can learn it and get your friends together and form a company and go and get bids and actually paint somebody's house. Not a big deal. What I did was 2 things, because if you're going to hire people, you want to keep them employed. So on days when it's raining and we can't paint outside, you paint interiors. And as a business owner, I'm not going to make any profit off of painting your interior. I'm going to give you a super low price. So when I call you and say it's raining today, I gave you that super low price. We go in there, I keep all my people at work. So that's one thing that can disrupt your summer as far as a painter. The other thing is you could be painting some Victorian house, and even though you thought I estimated enough and we're going to make money, it takes too long. There's too much gingerbread, woodwork, all this other stuff. And so what you do is you learn to find, the houses that your crew can handle most adeptly and efficiently. And then you go and bid only on those types of houses. So in my case, I found that there was a lot of people with aluminum siding that they didn't have like vinyl siding prevalent yet, and it was more expensive. People wanted to change the color of their house, and it was arduous to do, because if you brush it or roll it, there's application marks all over the house. It takes like 3 coats. It's a pain. So what I learned to do was do a special mix in the pressure wash, a detergent that takes all the chalkiness off the house. And then I invested in a couple sprayers, and I taught my crew the techniques of how to spray a house and where to spray and where to, use some other method. And that enormously racked up the profitability, and I was able to lower the overall cost for my customers. So I was able to do the house cheaper and make a higher profit than all these other houses that they want them brushed or rolled or stained or whatever. So then we started to just basically seek out where are the neighborhoods of all these houses and go door to door, collect their objections, handle their objections and their concerns, and make everybody's houses look beautiful. So that's
Yeah.
just an example of like business, but these are opportunities that aren't presented anywhere in school or college. Like they expect you to succeed after you leave those places, but they haven't given you any of the tools to succeed unless you want to get on this specific path that is super competitive and kind of rigged and unfair called, you know, corporate world. And there you're going to be achieving somebody's dreams that probably didn't go to college.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know,
right.
Look at the richest people on the planet. A lot of these cats either dropped out of college or dropped out in high school. So you have created quite a track for yourself, man.
Yeah, I hope so. And it started with these these small realizations as a kid. You know, a lot of it came from my dad and just listening to libertarian capitalists, which, you know, I got the right influences, man. And it really is. I decided, you know, where it came from. You know, I just decided, what do I want to do with my life, and what do I want to have, and it's been so like I'm just look at that kind of general some of these ideas I like. I want to live off my own labor in terms of food and the way I live. I want it to be close to the earth. So I look at these values, and now I've just looked at, well, how do I make money doing that? So that's been the path for me.
How old were you when you asked your parents to take you out of high school?
I was 15.
And what specifically led you to that realization?
I realized that I had stuff that I wanted to do outside of school. I realized that I was working on things that were just not interesting to me. Like I already knew what I wanted to do, and this wasn't it. So I decided, well, there's after listening to the School Sucks project, you know, I realized, okay, no, there's another way. I don't have to go through this path to be successful. Look at these people that Brett's, you know, talking to and showing. So I found that, and that's when I realized that, you know, I've got better stuff to do. I've got yaks to raise. Let me do that instead.
All right. So how old are you now?
I'm 19.
And you have your own business.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you run your own business?
So I've had yaks for 3 years, and maybe you could say that's kind of like I was business, but when I really started trying to make money was probably 2 years ago.
And what products do the yaks provide for you? Or for your customers, rather?
Right. They provide meat mostly, and then I've also gotten some fiber from them, a wool fiber that they produce.
And at this point, being out of high school for a couple years, what are some of the challenges that you're facing that high school didn't prepare you for? Although we can't fault high school because you didn't finish it, Nick.
That's right. Maybe I would have learned some more skills in the 2 years I didn't get. But I would say mainly, I don't know if this is the problem in school, but I think so, is self-discipline has been my biggest issue in the last few years. And now I'm just kind of getting the hold of being able to form better habits, and I've caught most of my bad habits, and I have them at least exposed to myself to be able to work on. But that's been the main thing is you know, figuring out, oh, there's nobody here to tell me what to do. I have to figure out what I need to do, and then I also need to go do it. So I realized there's quite a bit more work involved in being an adult, and so I wasn't really exposed to the I guess the freedom of controlling what I could work on. So I just had some issues being disciplined as I started the business.
Well, then you find out there's all these areas that you kind of need to be competent in. And you're like, which ones do I work on first? How do I get this done? Right.
Yeah.
Because for your business, from my understanding, you got the self-discipline issue. You got the time management issue. You got the communication in-person issue. You got the copywriting, that's communication on the web issue. You got the mindset issue. You got the, how do I find clients for my business? How do I handle objections when they tell me, go away, kid? We don't need none. We already got what we need. You know, you're only going to hear so many. So I'm going to teach you how to go through and collect all those. Make a collection, make it your goal. Like to fail. We've talked about this in the mastermind a little bit, but make it your goal to fail for an entire week. Like go knock on the proverbial doors of 40 different restaurants or markets or wherever, and get them to tell you why you can't be successful there.
Mm-hmm.
because then you can go away for a week, come up with a plan, and then re-engage them. Hey, I listened to what you had to say. Like, we can go through this later or in the next call, or, however you want to do it. But these are things that you'll eventually learn to master to run your business. And the sooner you learn to master these things, the better. And the way you master them is, once you find out about them, go out and try them out. So that's why I'm all about teaching and then having people try to practically apply that in a way that brings success or failure, but you can learn from both. So fail often, fail early, and succeed sooner. That's what I'm trying to communicate in the course.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. I think that's, that was one of my biggest things of why I said I need to do this now. I need to get out of school and start trying to do this business instead of doing it the way how it was suggested to me was, well, Nick, you need to write out the plan. You need to show this is how I'm going to finance it and all this. I said, no way. Just let me get out there and try it, which is in some ways, maybe I could have done more research and I could have done a little bit better. But at the same time, I don't think I would have learned nearly much.
And you'll learn that balance. There'll be times when you do too much research and not enough action. There'll be times you take too much action and say, well, I should have done more research, right? But as long as you're in the learning phase, these are totally acceptable and shouldn't be seen as like overall failures, because overall failure is when you quit learning. So as long as you keep learning, and so you can't learn from a mistake unless you recognize it. So there's all about observing. What are the effects of the actions I'm taking? How's this working out? Should I adjust? Can I evolve or adapt or overcome this next challenge? How might I do that? Who do I know that might help me or might have been through that situation before that can advise me on this, right? All these sort of things. But again, these would be really useful if they taught them in the 15,000 hours of public education, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
To me, I think they're necessities to have a nation, dare I say, a planet of responsible, rational, reasonable, self-reliant, self-confident, competent adults. Something that I think there was a lot of in the past. I mean, misinformed as they were and lied to as they were, through their culture. I think, when you look into the writings of the past, going back, especially like into the 1800s, if you read the letters of like guys that were in the Civil War, you'll be like, wow, these guys had a lot more education than people today. They've really whittled it down. Our quality of information, like communication, and our ability to communicate information has been severely limited. And I think social media plays into it heavily, but is not the sole progenitor of the whole trend. It's just something that's kind of feeding and accelerating the trend. So I think it's our responsibility as thinking human beings not to advocate the use of violence as a means to peace. And we can't do that unless we are thinking and we have the ability to stand fearless of losing our job or alienation like that. Because if you have the skills, so, as they say, to pay the bills, then you can stay in line with your conscience. You can take steps that you think are right and are in line with your integrity and not fear, in my case, losing your career. Because if you have those skills, you see it in a more indignant fashion because you can walk away and be successful anyway. So it takes away that fear of loss, that if you do get a corporate job and you see something going on that's wrong, even though you might go to jail if you were implicated for saying nothing, a lot of people will say nothing because they don't want to lose their career. They can't afford to lose their job. They don't know how to get another job. They were lucky to get this job. All these things that adversely influence people's behavior. And, when you look at the IQ spectrum of the world and the people who actually cause injury and damage to others, it's not really the people on the lowest end of the spectrum. It's people with higher IQs that take no accountability for their actions.
Yeah.
They don't put any thought before they have a reaction.
Yeah. And I think I think that the biggest thing that I think is missing in school is those skills that are applicable to every situation. Math is, you can argue that the broad subject of math is very applicable to you can, and pretty much everything we do, you can find a way to use math. Or if you're counting anything, you're using numbers, so it's there, but it's not necessarily as applicable as something like just learning how to communicate with people. Like I think what would be much more productive to learn would be, reading. I guess isn't it Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People? That's a much more useful set of skills than doing algebra. If you need to figure out the square area of a paddock for grazing yaks, hey, that was useful. But it's much better for me to be able to interact with my customers, and I've had to learn that in the last couple of years of how do I, how do I interact with these people, especially being somebody who's shy, right? So
that's an excellent point, because I can't think of a time I've had to solve a quadratic equation since I graduated. However, on a daily basis, I need to use communication, which is quality, as opposed to some sort of mathematics that would be representative of a quantity, right? Sometimes in your communication, you need to quantify something, and sometimes you have to use math to do that. But the extent to which mathematics is taught on a broad, wide spectrum, that's fine if it's the student's choice and it's their inclination and they need to learn about that because they have an interest in that area and they have a practical application. But otherwise, I think there are essential skills that are not being taught that would be useful, that would assure them, that the student's going to be self-reliant and successful and have real self-confidence and self-esteem that's based on their ability to take their skills and put it into action and achieve success, as opposed to they have a self-esteem because they're wearing a specific brand of clothing or they have really good social media presence or whatever, right? So, this is something they did in the early 1900s is they took the idea of self-esteem coming from knowing how to do things, having experience in doing those things, and being able to offer your services to other people and trade and make a living. They took that away and they said, no. Your self-esteem comes from being able to keep up with the Joneses and have the brightest, shiniest car and the biggest house and the best school for your kids that doesn't actually teach them how to survive, but really, just preserve a status quo that doesn't serve most people. And I'm not saying there should be some sort of violent revolution to overthrow that. I don't think that would make any sense, but I do think it is a responsibility of individuals as they notice this, as they notice that they have a blind spot, to take some action to try to fill that in. Right? Doesn't that just seem reasonable?
Definitely. I think that's the common sense solution to me, right? I don't know what else would you do.
Well, some people will just, binge watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Some people would just, do something that is totally antithetical to being productive or living up their potential or doing anything that might add value to their present and future. They might sit around lamenting the past. They might feel like they're a victim and not having learned that lesson that, there's no reward for self-pity. Like, everybody has a different journey, and some people have been through much, much tougher journeys than other people. But on any given day, you can go on YouTube and find a couple people that went through some crazily tragic journey and they surmounted it and they come out the other side. And it's a beautiful story. And it'll usually make you cry because you sit there thinking, oh, I was feeling sorry for myself. Or you can just look back at history. Like I had a friend here and he was having a tough time. I said, anytime you're having a tough time, learn about what people went through to get to this country, for instance. Like, read about somebody who spent months in the bottom of a ship trying to get to America, where people were dying and sick and first class people were up there having champagne and you're trapped in the bottom and seasick. Or read about the Bengal famine in India from 1773 or 1943. Same thing happened under British control, where a bunch of people were starved to death so they could take the food from there and trade it for other stuff because they were under control and slavery. Then you're not going to feel so bad for yourself. Then you're going to be able to step out of that mindset of victim mentality. And now you're just dealing with your mindset of scarcity, which is totally conditioned by school. And you're going to learn a couple things that take away that scarcity and say, oh, wow. In the case of just the skill of painting a house, now, when you drive down the street, you see money all along the street. Which of these houses wants to transact with you? You have a quality business. You can deliver a quality service and a result, guarantee your work. You're going to be able to pick up a lot of that money. All of a sudden now, that fear of scarcity and need and all that stuff, it goes away because you now have the lens through which to see your opportunity and you have the experience through which to transact on it. Oh, I might pull over here and stop at this house. This guy looks like he's home. Let me just have a chat with him. Right? He was thinking about painting his house, but not for 6 months. You might be able to offer him some incentive to do it today, or you might want to put it on your schedule for 6 months from now, right? But you don't know unless you stop the car and act on that action and have a friendly conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I think. This is a lot of this reason. Like it comes down to is one of these things about sales is I kind of noticed that I have this aversion to asking people for money, and for whatever reason, I think it's probably dumb, right? I mean, if I feel like my yak meat is valuable enough, but so I've kind of tried to start looking at things from the point of view of, well, listen, you're not going here to ask this person for money. You're going here to learn about their business. You're going here to see, and you're also learning about your business, right? My own business. And I'm here to meet a new person who's interested in the same things I am. You know, I've scoped out this person. I knew that they're, if I'm going to this restaurant, I know that they're interested in the same kind of agricultural practices that I am. So I know that this is one of these people who I'd like to be with anyway. But anyway, you know, there's my point was, I'm looking at this more from I'm here on this planet to enjoy my life, and part of that is interacting with the people that are on it. I think the people are pretty great most of the time, and so I think it's really fun being in business, having to deal with customers, having to deal with a lot of people. At least if you're a people person, and I didn't even really consider myself a people person until maybe recently in this year. It's just kind of fun to do that, and it's fun to show up at somebody's house and say, "Hey, see, you have a little bit of a chip there. Some of the paint is falling off on the side of your house. Let me fix that for you." And they're like, "Oh man, thank you. Yeah, absolutely." That's a fun interaction, and you definitely get there is an intrinsic value in just stopping and doing something like that. I definitely think that it's worth it, even if it's not for the money. I think, and for that case, I really like having a business that's involved, you know, in my lifestyle, because I really love doing it. I don't know. I think that's where I was going. I don't remember you had a point.
Doing something that you're passionate about. You don't have a lot of competition, and yet you have a market. And you have people that are interested yet that don't know they're interested yet. And that's kind of the obstacle that I see you have to overcome, because when you go to a restaurant, that they're not like, "Oh, yak meat, of course." Right? They're like, "Wait a minute, I've heard of bison. People serving bison these days. Who's eating yak meat? You got any recipes?" That's one thing you should do when you try to sell them. You should leave them with a sample and leave them with some recipes. Let them cook it themselves, see how it tastes. And then I think you'd have, so maybe instead of trying to go there to sell them something, maybe you should lead by giving them something.
Yeah, that's been my strategy so far. Is I make sure I show up with at least a pound of burger.
Right. Rule number one of entrepreneurism: anytime when you're in need, it's because you're not applying your skills. How do you apply your skills? Start helping other people. There's tons of other people that need help, and if nobody's asking them and they're not saying no to people actively, they're probably going to be interested in it. You're right. I do need help, and nobody else has said anything to me about this. I would be interested in learning about this or this or this. And if they're not, no big deal, dude. Like, what are you wasting somebody's 10 seconds of time? They're going to hold it against you. You already gave them some free yak meat and a recipe. They're going to answer the email, or they're going to give you feedback on how you might improve. So the strategy I would take would be scope out all the places you want to do business. Read their menus. Figure out what they have going on. Give them a sample of your meat with specific instructions for a recipe that fits in with their menu. And you might only have 3 or 4 recipes, but you're going to figure out like which might be, oh, this barbecue one goes to this place, and this over here is for the Asian place, or however you might qualify it, right? So now you've got your mind thinking, you've removed the fear of going there and asking for money, and you've got an active plan to start giving. And I'm going to bet with a little follow-up, and maybe answering a couple questions, maybe ignoring a few complaints, and maybe handling a couple objections, you'll get people to sign on for a subscription per month for their restaurant. Or at least if they won't do that, then your trial offer, where you give them an introductory price, let them put it on the menu as a special, see what people think, but you have to make sure that they actually get feedback after people eat it. Otherwise, they're not going to like see how good it is. Right.
Right.
Or if people don't like it. And if you get a bunch of feedback that people don't like yak meat, find some new recipes, feed your yak something different, or get a new line of business.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So where in there did you hear me say sales? It's all about asking some questions and helping people solve a problem. In this case, all restaurants need more customers. How do you get more customers? Maybe you put a new special on the menu, and maybe you have it at a special price. And then when somebody eats there and likes it, they go and tell 2 or 3 friends, and those friends then come to the restaurant. Now, I don't know if that's the most likely scenario as far as causality. There might be some other things you want to tweak to make it actually work, but that would be the general idea, right? You want to provide some value, friendly interaction, low pressure follow-up, variety of options, and you want to foresee the possible objections that they might raise and have a way to satiate those and not take away their concerns by just ignoring them, handling those concerns, validating them, and saying, yeah, you're right. And if the meat spoils in the first week or whatever, money back guarantee, or however you need to phrase it for your line of business. But, it's not rocket science, but it's also not taught anywhere at a level that I find acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, I think that's right. So I did. So I picked up some things that I liked that you said there, that I want to do. And some of the things I don't do is I don't
recording this, Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
See, this is where you're smart, dude, because if you called me and said, hey, Rich, I want to talk to you about my business for an hour, I would say, Phil, answer these questions so I know and can do some research and figure out how to help you. And then here's $200 for my time. And then I'm going to send you a follow up with some instructions. But you could just say, hey, want to do a podcast episode?
Right.
And you can get it for free.
This is one of I think, man, I don't know what I would have. I think the podcast has been my most excellent replacement for school. Nothing has come better out of that than being able to reach out to these people that I look up to, like you and Brett. Exactly. I have so many people are accessible, and all I've really done is talked about the stuff that I enjoy, put it out there, and then talk to the people that I want to hear from and put it out there. And, people listen, and then people hear about it and say, oh yeah, I'll come on that show. It's one of the best things I've ever done for sure. But yeah, I've learned quite a bit. And
being in the mastermind group has been a nice complement to that, because you get to interact with other people who have a variety of entrepreneurial issues. And I think, I've only done it since last April or May or something like that. But yeah, I've had a great time. It's always interesting. It's like the issues your dad brings, or the issues you bring, or the issues any of the other members bring to the table. A lot of times I hadn't thought of it before. But if you give it 5 or 10 minutes of thought, you can come up with all sorts of good ideas, right? And it's interesting how the mind, when focused on a problem, is all of a sudden trying to answer those questions and come up with alternatives. And from that, I think as somebody presenting issues at a mastermind meeting, it's very beneficial, because it's not just one person's ideas. You have a bunch of ideas to choose from, and then you have a broader menu from which to make your decision, or to try many decisions, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my favorite thing about business is the problem solving aspect to that. And I was listening to I think it's Sebastian Junger on Joe Rogan yesterday. I think he was on there Monday. But anyway, they were talking about I think it was them. Maybe I was listening to something else. No, I was listening to Drive by Daniel Pink, I think, on Audible, and he was talking about monkeys and how they like to solve problems. But anyway, you thought about how we just connect and figure out these issues. It's quite fun, and it's somewhat
there's invertebrates
intrinsically,
like an octopus can solve problems.
Yeah,
you could put like a clam in a jar and throw it, and an octopus will open it and get the clam out of the jar with its tentacles and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what intelligence is, right? It's problem solving.
That's not right. That's not just camouflage. Like some of those can take on the texture and the color. They're pretty far out. But yeah, the world under the sea is interesting for sure.
Yeah. So I was looking at some of these things, or thinking about some of these things that I haven't done, and I'm thinking about. So I wanted to tell you what I did last maybe it wasn't last week. It was the week before. I went and visited a bunch of restaurants, and my first mistake is I didn't call ahead to make sure that people would be there. I called ahead like maybe the week before actually, and I did try to see, but some of the people's schedules had changed by then, so they weren't there. So most of the people I went to go visit, I didn't get to visit, and so I passed off my gifts and stuff to other people that were working there, and I visited a couple other places, and I got to talk to one chef, but he was busy, so I showed up at the wrong times. And now I think that was like the main piece of my strategy that went wrong, is I didn't schedule a meeting. So now what I'm doing is I'm scheduling meetings, but I dropped off my phone number and Yak with a bunch of people, and I haven't heard back from anybody. And part of it, it's like, I know restaurant owners are so busy; they're the busiest people, and I didn't. There's all these like little pieces to that. I leave my number, but I didn't leave a card or something, or what? There's like these tiny little things that I could shape up. But what do you think about like that strategy? Like, do you think that I know there's more details to it probably, but in terms of how I've learned, like, what do you think about that? So I didn't schedule the meetings. That's my problem.
I'm very impressed. I would like to congratulate you. I know you think you went out and failed, but you actually just discovered what it takes to succeed. You went out, you failed, and then you thought about what happened, and you thought about all the ways you can improve it next time. Oh, I should have thought to bring this. I should have had like a package prepared for these people. I should have called ahead of time. I should have found out who the manager is, right? I should have defined some next steps and said, I'm going to call you back in the next 7 days, and you can let me know how that recipe will, you get them to agree. Do you think, here's this sample. Do you think you could make this for one of your meals, one of your 27 meals in the next week? Yeah, I think I could do that. Okay, great. I'm going to call you next week, and you can tell me how this recipe was and how much yak meat you guys need. And then I'm going to offer you a special that you can't refuse. All right. Expect my call next week. Right. So the reason these are called rookie mistakes is because most rookies who make these mistakes never go beyond being a rookie. And if you can figure out these early mistakes, like you just did, you don't have it all figured out, Nick, but you've got 60% of it right there in what you just told me. So you should have confidence in that you know how to get off your ass, go outside, find a restaurant, talk to some people, let them tell you no however they want to. Come back home, put together some notes. What did you learn? How can you improve? Go back out again. So you've got most of it down already, and it's just the secret is persist. Keep doing that. Keep refining. Keep learning. So right now you might go out, you might go to 30 restaurants and they all say no. But now those 30 restaurants kind of know who you are. And if you go back again with something better or some other angle that might, suit them better, right? Make it seasonal. And instead of trying to sell everybody on putting it on the menu all year, say, I'm going to provide you just for 3 or 4 months of the year. And then you have other clients that can fill that in. And it's like having a bunch of clients subscribing all year. Right? So you just need to learn and map out all their objections and all the ways that you can fail. So if you make that your goal, let's go out and discover how many ways I can, figure out how to fail tonight. Because that means you're going through the steps. And if you're legitimately focused and like taking notes and being present and listening to what people say, you're going to learn. And so if you take the learning plus the persistence, it's going to equal success sooner or later if there's a market for what you are producing. And if you're offering it at a price that the value of what you're offering exceeds the price. Now you might have to figure out how much does the value have to exceed the price. Like this 10 pounds of yak meat might produce $100 in revenue or $200 in revenue for the restaurant once they upmarket for cooking it and whatever else. And it costs them $50. That's enough where they're like, oh, we're actually making money from that. So it's not just if they spend $50, they make 60. It's if they make 50, if they spend $50, they make 200. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not a locked in percentage. I'm just saying when you make it multiples of times the amount of money they can make on it, that makes the price look, yeah, that's very reasonable. If I buy something for $20, let's say it's a video course so I can spend less time wandering around. I spend $20. I learn how to do something. I put it into practice. I saved, if I save 10 hours of time and my time's worth $20 an hour, which is worth way more than that, it's my most valuable asset. But let's just say, for sake of argument, 10 hours of wandering on the internet at $20 an hour, that's $200. Yeah, I'll spend the $20 on the product that leads me through there in 4 hours. I'll save the other 6 hours, and I'll save that other $180. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't think like that, you're like, oh, $20, I don't want to spend $20. I don't believe in myself that much. I don't know that there's like, everything else, there's inflation involved and, depreciation. When you invest in yourself, it's always building more value if you're applying skills that are useful in what you want to do. Like if you're a painter of canvases and you learn some new technique and that adds value to what you can sell your painting for, then wasn't it worth, investing in yourself to learn a new technique or a new skill that adds value to your overall product or service offering as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. What do I add on to that? I mean, yeah, I guess I don't.
So
it's great.
Let's refine you're going out and failing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're okay with short-term failure as a goal. We don't feel like we're a failure when that's the goal. You're going to go out and practice it, fail often, fail early, succeed earlier. The other thing is, from a sales perspective, don't think of it as sales. Think of it as asking questions. And if people tell you about problems they have and you can help them solve it, that's just like being a good human being, right?
Right.
So to do that, you would need to get their attention, right? You had to go in and you walk into the restaurant, you had to get their attention. Start off treating everybody like they're a millionaire, not because of the money thing. I'm just saying, like, treat everybody with the top level of respect. Never respect anybody different because of the perceived economic or managerial. You know what I'm saying? If you go in and it's a janitor and you're trying to find the manager, don't be like, I don't want to talk to you. I only want to talk. You know what I'm saying? So like, treat everybody with the highest level of respect until they do something, some action that says, I don't have to treat this person with my highest level of respect. They haven't earned it. Like, they just unearned it. Consider that they've earned it until they unearn it.
Mm-hmm.
So attention, and then you're going to ask them some questions. And you've done some research before you went there. You've looked at their menu. You're familiar, like now you're familiarizing yourself with the ambiance of the restaurant, right? And so you're asking some questions. You're agreeing with whatever they're saying because you're just collecting data. You're not trying to do anything. And then you assess whether or not your product or service can aid them in where they're trying to go, where they're trying to get to. I mean, at the end of the day, the restaurant wants people going out of there happy, saying nice things about them, and being satisfied that they got a good, meal for the value, right?
Yeah.
Your goal is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be helping you if your meat was causing it to do otherwise, right?
Right.
So then you're just having a conversation as two people who want the same thing, and they either have thought about how they go through putting something on the menu and there's a process, or they don't do it often enough. So you're coming out of the blue and expecting them to take some steps and they're not really sure what to do. So it might be useful to have knowledge of what those steps might be, right? Like, you can offer it to your best, like, when's your best clientele come in? Okay, we're going to offer it as a free meal tonight to them and get their feedback. And then this week we're going to start you out with, 10 pounds, and that would be, 20 orders of this dinner for the week. And that's a special. And if you get any bad feedback, then I want to know immediately so I can do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? Not, I'm going to try to sell you more next week if you're having a problem.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't show up with more.
If you don't communicate that, they'll likely have that fear because they've, been screwed over because the world has a lot of unethical people. So you have to go into it being aware of that and be able to provide for that before it becomes an issue. Like, before someone thinks, oh, Nick might be pulling a fast one, show them how to recognize what a fast one would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to raise the standard for when they're getting meat from other vendors. Oh, Nick said to check the meat like this and see this. Because a lot of those places that are packing it, they're spraying it with gases to make it look a different color than it is on the inside. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? All these sort of things are doing. So this is like, you could see it as a disadvantage because, oh, woe is me. These big corporations are doing all this mass packaging and I don't have blah, blah, blah. Or you could see it as, oh, I offer something better than them. And if I inform my client in the right way, I can actually take some of their business, because if they're producing an inferior product and I teach the client how to recognize inferior product, that client's going to save money. They might invest more money with me. But if they don't, I still feel good about that because I'm teaching my client how to have better business, how they can prepare better food for their clients. You see?
Yeah. Yeah. So this makes a lot of sense to me. This is exactly what I think I'd like to do. I want to go in and I want to learn their business, because I want to, especially with these first people, that's mainly what I think I should be looking for is like, I want to know, how are they making money on every dish, like what is the margin and stuff, so that I can take that and translate that to other people.
Well, they might not tell you that, but you could ask them,
sure,
what's the magic number?
Yeah.
They might have something in mind, and then you could say, well, I can't give it to you, and here's why. Or, you know what? I could do that. Give me 6 months. I'll lower the quality of my food. I'll grow you some yaks that'll meet that price, and you'll buy it, right? Oh, no, I don't want that. I want the high quality stuff. Great. High quality stuff means I have to buy actual food, and I'm not feeding them gummy bears.
Yeah, right.
This is what goes on in middle America. They're feeding those cows gummy bears, dude. You see tractor trailers of gummy bears overturned on the highway. Those were going to the thing you call beef.
Yep.
Right. So once you start educating your audience on it, and dude, I don't know how I could do this, but I could probably give you a link. I have a buddy who made a really great movie on food, and it's the type of thing that you could maybe get permission to give that out to all these people as a free bonus. And it's a kick-ass documentary.
Yeah. He's
going to be releasing it as an affiliate product. So I'll be able to have a link to it in the future. So you could just get an affiliate link to it. And I'm sure if I owned a restaurant and there was this information, I would probably want to check it out, because then I can change my menu accordingly. I don't want to be serving things that are dangerous to people unless I can put something on the menu that says, hey, this may do this,
Yeah.
You don't have to put an asterisk next to your yak meat, is my point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is that's one of the benefits of me being small. Is I have all of the control, and I definitely know what goes into those yaks, and they're not anything but grass-fed yak.
So you should be looking at the restaurants that. What are the top 10 restaurants around you that charge the most money?
Right. Yeah, those are the ones I'm looking for.
You find a place. I mean, I don't know what it's like, but I would imagine there's a couple places that are very pricey for their meals because you're using exclusive products that come from a known place where they know what goes into those animals or whatever the food stuff is. And, people who have the money and know the difference probably eat at that restaurant for a variety of reasons, right? And those 2 or 3 restaurants could earn you more than 10 or 15 of these other restaurants that are like scrimping and all this other stuff that goes on when you run a restaurant. So, or you might just, like I said, free samples, don't ask them for anything except for feedback in a week after you guys try these recipes, or try them, have the chef try them for himself or whatever, however their process works. But you're going to learn about how does their process work for putting something new on the menu, and how does it get on the menu? Oh, they have to have distribution contract and delivery and payment agreements and purchase order and all these other things that you don't need to learn about. I mean, here's the thing. You need to learn about these things to do a business, especially at a variety of levels, but it's not taught in school. But it also doesn't do a lot of good to learn about these things and then try to apply them 20 years later. It's good to learn these type of things in close proximity to the practical application, right? Like anything I was taught in college is not applicable today. And I basically, even if I had a marketing degree, I would have to relearn marketing over because so much has changed, right? And even if I had tried to apply it earlier in life, again, what I was taught in college was already 10 years old and obsolete anyway. This is the other thing that they scam kids with. Like most of those universities are all about making money from research and research grants. And a lot of the people teaching the classes aren't there because they're good communicators or good teachers. They're in that class because it's part of their requirement to get their grant to do the thing. And I think that's kept off of everyone's radar. And there's so many kids getting indentured and parents going into debt for a system that's been obsolete for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So I'm glad you escaped.
Yeah, me too.
I'm glad you got smart parents, dude.
Yeah,
You're
I
lucky, man. You're lucky
I'm
because
very
you have an
lucky.
advantage and you are taking advantage of it, um, and making the most of it, I think, and doing a good job of trying to express your potential in the world without waiting another like 4 or 6 years before they're like, okay, like before college says you're fit to go out into the world, and then you would have learned that you needed to do everything you just did in the past 3 years.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. So it's definitely
and you'd be
it's great to have that head
$100,000 in
start.
debt, right?
Right. I've got a buddy who went to school for like a semester, and now he's kind of realized, oh, that's not what I want to do. And man, that student debt is it's a pain. Unfortunately, if you don't get those finances figured out, and even then they do. Well, of course, I didn't get into junior or senior years, so maybe they teach you more about college prep. But it seems like they don't even really prep you
They
that well
don't.
for
They don't.
dealing with that,
And the
because it's a
guidance
lot of money.
counselors are just a lot. I don't want to make a sweeping general statement, but many times there are people that couldn't figure things out either because they just got the same education you got. They couldn't figure out a job. They're like, oh, I'll stay here and advise college or high school students on where they should go for,
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ton of, I see the problem as a problem. And therefore, as an entrepreneur, you have to think about how could I turn it, make a solution. That's an opportunity. The problem is an opportunity if you can learn how to solve it. And I think a lot of people without that knowledge, they're like, oh, I got problems and it's always going to be a problem. No, you have an opportunity because you just found out this other system failed you. So now you can do something about it. Before you couldn't do anything about it because you believed that system was going to serve you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, what do you what do you do now? So and I don't know. I figured it out. Lucky on me. But there's a lot of people who are in those same steps, and I think the best thing to do is just get out there and do it. Get out there and learn. Figure out what it really needs to be done. What are the steps you need to take, and get out there.
But on the other hand, Nick, you had a safety net. If you messed
I absolutely had that.
you were still living at home. It was all good, and that's also a great thing for people your age. It's like that's an advantage. You used it. Oh,
Yeah.
You had a safety net, and you said, "Okay, I'm going to walk this tightrope because I know if I fall, I'm going to get caught." Otherwise, you have a safety net, and you're like, "No, I still don't want to walk the tightrope. I'm scared of falling into the safety net." Right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
at least you climbed the pole, you walked across, and you haven't fallen off yet. You're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Are you 100% self-sufficient yet?
No.
Of course not, dude.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people in their 30s, 40s that aren't self-sufficient yet because they lack the basic skills. I, for a time, was even not so much self-sufficient, not because I lacked the skills, but because I was so distracted with trying to figure some other things out, which were substantial and warranted in order to go forward. But nonetheless, I still was, not being entirely self-sufficient. But like I said, that was a choice. That stuff was off my map. So what I did for other people was make sure I made a map of what I found so that they don't have to go through the same turmoil and fall into the same pitfalls. Because I think that school gives you a map that does not reflect the terrain. The map is never the terrain, but it should reflect it.
Mm-hmm. It should be accurate.
You get to something that's marked river and it's, a mountain, that doesn't help you. And if you're encountering things that are obstacles that are substantial and they're not even on the map, that's where I was like, wait a minute, why am I encountering so many things off the map? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, the school system wasn't supposed to educate me, and I was pretty naive. So let me fix that and then take what I've learned and reapply it. So,
yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I think this is great. This is affirming everything that I think I should be doing.
I'm not just here to be a yes man in the firm. Everything. So,
well, I mean, part of it is, I mean, that's good. I appreciate that. I mean, but part of it is I try to recognize when those failures happen that, what is it? It's a learning opportunity. Because I don't know. I've never fallen off in the fact that in the sense that I've, that I lost a bunch of money and then decided to quit. Right. I'm staying on the same track. But I don't know. I mean, it's difficult, but that's life, right? That's, it's not that big of a deal.
Here's what people need to realize. It is just as much hard work to be broke and unsuccessful as it is to be successful. And I'm not saying wealthy in a money type of way, but having the freedom to do what you want and to pursue what you want as far as, mental goals and learning things. And, that's cognitive liberty, being able to be free and do what you want to do within reason, and not to excess. But that's what people are missing. So when people are like, oh, they're disenchanted with what's going on out there, it's like, well, I bet you're not applying all these other things to meet your goals. And I bet if I gave you a scale 1 to 10 where you think you are in your potential, you're not going to rank very high right now. Would you like to move up a notch? Here are some things you could do to do that. I can't do them for you. I can show them to you. I can explain how I got over those obstacles or how some other people did it. But at the end of the day, it's just about giving people better information on the actions they can take so they can most readily and rapidly and efficiently and effectively get to the goals that they're seeking. Right? So my question to you is, what kind of person do you want to be in life? Not what do you want to do? That would be your occupation. What kind of person do you want to be?
Yeah. So I've thought about this a bit, and who I want to be. The person that I've decided is I want to be somebody who has an accurate map like yourself, right? Talking about this map, I want to be able to have a map that has worked through multiple challenges. First one right here is entrepreneurship. I'm trying to figure that out. And so the idea behind that is I'd like to have it so that I can pass it on. I really value being able to pass on knowledge myself. So I want to be somebody who's knowledgeable and wise. And then I would like to be somebody who's honest and I guess authentic, right? I don't want to hide pieces of myself from other people. And then I'd like to be I guess the three things, I think would be kind. I want to be kind. I want to be helpful. Those are the things I'm looking for out of myself. Does that answer your question, or are you looking for a different answer?
They have a Latin phrasing or a saying that said, wisdom and youth do not mix. But I think you're doing pretty well for yourself, man. They're just saying it takes time to actually learn the lessons being taught, but you've had an accelerator class, so you've definitely got wisdom beyond your age at this point.
Sure.
Like I said many times on the call, like the things that you're working on, I know people in their early 30s that still haven't thought about that type of stuff. So don't get cocky because because there might be some other skills that they've built up that you haven't built up, right? But that's the cool thing.
There certainly are.
Life is a classroom. What class are you putting yourself through today? Or like, what script are you writing for yourself? Or are you just going from somebody else who's writing a script so they can manifest their dreams? Right?
Right.
Because if there's a quid pro quo, if I'm helping to manifest my dreams by helping you manifest your dreams, that's cool. But if I'm just working for you and helping to manifest your dreams and you just give me money, at some point, people are going to be like, where's the purpose and meaning? What am I supposed to be doing? I made great money in the corporate industry, but I never really did anything meaningful or like fulfilling other than earn big commission checks, because you're dealing with corporations, which is very impersonal to begin with. Mm-hmm. Then you're dealing with bureaucrats within those corporations. That's still very, immaterial. And then you're selling those corporations software, which is like digital assets, right? So at the end of the day, I'm helping such and such company fulfill their IT objectives. And they're, maybe it helps bring in more money for their company. That is great, but it's kind of superficial. And it wasn't like the highest purpose I could serve for myself, or it wasn't really, anyway, after encountering enough resistance, I was like, I don't have to go this direction. I can go this direction over here. Mm-hmm. Way out in yonder, there's Nick.
Yeah.
13 years later, he's out there farming the yaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want to be a good person that can share wisdom, which is what? You have knowledge, you have an understanding, and you can transfer that understanding to other people. That's all it is. You have that a little bit at this point. And that's the type of person you want to continue to grow into. I think that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're on that track. And the advice that I would make, because goals, if you don't consciously set goals, I'm not saying purposely set. A lot of people purposely set goals, but they don't consciously think about what might be necessary to attain that goal. Because if attaining that goal falls outside your line of integrity, then maybe that's not a goal you want to attain. So while goal setting is useful, I also find the method by which I attain goals to be useful. And if you take every step with integrity, then no matter where you are in your process of reaching that goal, you're in a good place. You got a strong foundation. You can defend yourself with reason and logic from there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can help people from there because you're not struggling off the path.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That's a pointer you might not use for a couple of years, but keep it in your bag, man.
Yeah. No, I've had the I try to I sit down and sometimes I think, how did I get here? Because I get a lot of compliments that says, yeah, Nick, you're on the right track.
You're so brave and courageous, Nick.
I know.
You could see the future. You acted on it. You're like somebody that invested in Bitcoin early on. You know what I'm saying? And there's a whole bunch of people behind you. Like, oh, can I do that? I can just ask my parents and get out of, and I could have a plan and make my own decisions. Wow. Right?
Yeah.
So you're inspiring others with your actions, but I know that wasn't necessarily the purpose of your actions. You just kind of went along and you're like, oh, this seems like the right thing to do. This seems like the right thing to do. This seems right. Oh, look at where I'm at. I'm farming yaks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't seem very brave to me, right? It doesn't seem like it was that big of a deal.
Counselor? Was that one of the options that they gave you? Were they like, okay,
no,
you could be an accountant, you could go into insurance, or you could farm yaks? No, they don't offer you that stuff. That's the thing, man. The most interesting things that you could be doing that'll really thrill you and hold your attention and ignite your passion throughout life are not going to be offered to you by the other people trying to write your script. They have a script. They're trying to fit you in it. Oh, we have a need for accountants and lawyers and blah, blah, blah. Could be one of these people. We need interchangeable blocks. Can you be an engineer? Can you pass, win the IEEE award? What can you do? That fits into their corporate society. If you want anything other than that, you're going to have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet, think with your own brain, use what's between your 2 ears, use your eyes, all your senses, ask questions, gather information, and be okay with not having an answer all the time, because that's part of what the learning experience is about. It starts with, I don't know, let me find out, right? So it's like the public school system teaches us and conditions, not teaches, they condition us to think we know things without having asked the questions to actually possess that knowledge. That's the trick. They get people to think they know everything, therefore they have no curiosity, and they're not exploring the world trying to learn because they think, oh, well, this must be all there is. This is as good as it gets because I was taught and this is it. And here we are.
Mm-hmm.
There are other options. Some of them are really cool. Some of them suck. Learn to tell the difference early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I agree with everything you're saying.
But you don't have to. You could be like, Rich, you're full of shit. And here's why. But you better have a good list of reasons after that, Nick, because I'm coming back.
Yeah, I don't have my good list of reasons. To me, it's really common sense. And this is one of the reasons why I think I started on this path was when I was young. I just had this desire. I want to be different. I want to set myself apart. And I don't know, maybe I learned that doing that got me praise. Who knows how I learned that? But that was in me very young. And really that's what it is if you can set yourself apart and in a good way, right? There's plenty of bad ways to do that. Like you said, but if you can do it, and if you can just try, it's just worth it. It's for the cognitive liberty, like you're talking about. Like I don't really come at yak farming as looking at $1 million industry, right? I know people who have made at least one guy, I should say. I know one guy who has made $1 million off of raising yak and bison. He's doing very well here in Oregon. But I didn't get into agriculture to make the money, right? It really is because this is what I want to do. This provides me with the freedom I'm looking for, and I think that's the biggest deal for me is for people to think about. Like, what do you want?
You're going back to school to get your associate degree. What's the end result? What do you hope to gain from that? Because what if you could get there without going to the university, put yourself in debt in the first place, and start just getting there?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But without
people don't like
people
to think
to
about that.
provoke those thoughts. Most people were just like, no, this is all they have on their website. So I'll just sign up for the associate's degree and get my bachelor's and then work my way, into debt and then hope I can get hired for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what they're doing. Like you go into debt and hope someone hires you for going into debt. You come out without the education that you need to be successful or thrive in the world. And everybody acts like, oh, this is okay. This is completely fine. And on top of that, we'll pay hundreds of thousands of dollars and, for all these kids to go to school. If you're a dad and you got 4 kids and each one of those is going to cost $100,000 to send them to college, I'll bet you'd be willing to pay like, I don't know, $2,000 to figure out an alternative plan that leads to their success faster and which makes them independent. So you don't have to worry about them. It's like insurance against failure. That's what I think real education is. Mm-hmm. Are you getting that in college? Did they test that on the SAT? Was that one of the questions? Like, in exchange for doing good on this test, we're going to guarantee you succeed? No. So people are out there jumping through hoops and denturing themselves, and I don't see a legitimate payoff. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
That elephant in the room.
Right. I mean, I think it's a lot easier for, like, I can show you the numbers on how I can scale up yaks to, at least on this property, I think if I can sell it, giving all these things, but I can show you the plan of how it gets up to like $60K a year and without very much debt. I got into some debt, buying animals. I'm probably
it's strategic to go into debt when going into debt is going to make you money.
Right. Well, but what I have, so what I did instead of getting a degree, which is, maybe you can, that's going to leverage you a job or something that can make you money. I have, not liquid assets, but I have hard assets
you
there.
Can quote me. I have toilet paper that is more valuable to me than my degree because at least with the toilet paper, I could wipe my ass with it. The diploma is like on thick paper. It would not go well. Smearing. No need to pursue that any further. We get the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. Like I thought it was funny when I was in college. I went into a stall. Don't worry, this isn't a poop joke. And it said on the wall of the stall, liberal arts degrees right here. And it had an arrow and it pointed to the toilet paper. And I always thought that was funny until I figured out that the degree I got, the Bachelor's of Science degree, that's also not even as valuable as the toilet paper. Because if you don't have these other skills, you can't do anything with it except be a cog and live your life at the beck and call of somebody else who can decide that you're fired today with no more benefits. And then you're left trying to figure out how to support your family and your kids and all this other stuff that's going on, keep your house and your car and all this other stuff, insurance. That's not fair. And it really puts people in a fear position that they'll do anything to keep that job, including turn their head the other way while Grand Theft World is going on right now in the past like 10 years. They've really just amplified it and they don't even care because no one's going to catch them. No one's going to prosecute them because the population's so dumbed down that no one can even recognize like Enrons are happening like every couple months now, but no one's paying attention to that. Don't worry about that. It's not on the news. Everything you need to know is on the news and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of distractions.
I said yesterday that trying to inform yourself by watching the news is trying to get in shape by watching an infomercial on exercise equipment. Right? Like the steps you need to do to inform yourself cogently on a situation or a subject is dramatically different than anything you're going to see on any news channel. And I think the fact that most people don't recognize that is the problem in the greater society that we are part of but it means that's where we are right now. Where can we go from here? What's the opportunity? Identify the skills that have been taken away and figure out a plan how to strategically place these skills back in the hands and experience of these people who need them. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. And that's actively that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to teach them to myself. And then I pass them along through the podcast and then people I talk to, I guess. But yeah, absolutely. That's the solution.
All right. So did you check out that email I sent you earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. I read it before the call. Yeah. I should pull it up. Do you want me to should I do it? Need to have it or is it just good enough that I read it?
Wanted to
cool.
See if you got a feel for it.
Yeah. I like it. It was interesting. I just like reading people's copy.
Right. So that's the thing right there. Get interested in recognizing copy, how it's written. Oh wait, I'm getting distortion noise.
It's me. I'm like moving my microphone a little bit. So now it should be better. I will stop.
I forgot where we're at.
We were
my
talking
left ear. You got my. You distracted me, Nick.
Sorry.
Using subliminals.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to pick it up from here, and then we'll go back into the podcast. That way, there's not in it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready when you are. Well, we were talking about the recognizing copy. If there's anything you wanted to say before that, before we start.
Nick had some noise going on his end, so I took that small part out. So you said that you read the email that I sent before, and that you were reading through the copy, and that you were learning from reading the copy. And I was pointing out that's exactly what you have to do: is learn how to recognize copy. Sales copy is called copywriting, the act of doing it, and analyze the parts. There's a greeting. There's a part where there might be a problem. There's a part there's a solution. There's a part where there's an offer. There might be additional information in there to help people overcome objections or misconceptions or whatever. But there is a general grammar to a sales letter or a landing page. And this is something people come across every day in trying to meet their needs by getting products. So the reason that I'm interested in teaching sales to people and marketing and copywriting and all these aspects that it takes to be entrepreneurial is not only so you have the self-reliance skills if you need them, if you don't want to get a job, if you don't want to interview and you don't want to do all this stuff and you want to run your own business, these are the skills you need. But also, if you buy products, you are being advertised and marketed to and sold to all the time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because you need products and services to meet your needs, and that's how the market works. But I think it's good to be a literate purchaser of, so when you're going through and you're reading, you actually understand, and that way no one can take advantage of you. You see, this is part of intellectual self-defense, learning how to read sales copy. If you were going to spend money anywhere, you're going to be sold to, you're going to be marketed to, you're going to be advertised to. It's good to be able to recognize the techniques, and separate the rhetoric from the actuality. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that translate?
Yeah, most definitely.
Does that translate to you, dude? Is there a generation gap we're trying to bridge?
No, I don't think so. This is actually one of the things I learned in school. This is one of the things they taught about was maybe not like they brought it up. I do remember one class where we learned critical thinking and how do advertisers use certain. We focused on the logos, pathos, and ethos, kind of like that stuff. Which I don't know how. It's useful in analyzing it, but yeah, I don't know. That was one of the few things I did get in school, but I think I've learned more about it since being out and actually applying it to analyzing literature that I was trying to really find a message from. So
for the benefit of anyone listening, the email that I sent Nick was an example of an email that I drafted that I prepared as a re-engagement letter to people who have formerly subscribed, or most of the times the subscription cancels because the card expires, or sometimes PayPal, they just cancel stuff anyway. I have some people that PayPal just automatically cancels their stuff even though they're trying to stay subscribed. So there's something going on out there. I don't try to figure it out or be conspiratorial about it. I just try to fix it and move on. But so that the email was made to address all of that. It addresses the first part about the subscription and then offers to people who are subscribed a business course that I would value at $2,000 because there's a similar course that teaches less that's $25,000 that I've taken, and it's substantial, but it's not as good as I could make it, and it's not as broad a spectrum as you need to run your own business and be successful these days. It's just a select part of that, and also it's about the same price as 2 community college courses, right? So it's not like a whole semester of a whole course load. It's like for people who want to invest in themselves. And so anyway, I'm giving that $2,000 course free for people who are subscribers of Tragedy and Hope. So people who are already subscribed and people who subscribe through the end of the year will get that as a service as I produce each course in the curriculum. We're going to use a webinar so people will be able to live chat, ask questions, get their questions answered, and then, of course, ask questions and comments in the post under each episode. Excuse me just a minute. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was talking for a while, but I had myself muted, and I was like, "What, Rich? Are you there?" I figured I'd just wait patiently and figure it out. Yeah, it's great. But I coughed on accident, and so I muted myself before I could cough. Go ahead. I'll cut back to it. What did I say? I said drop links.
in the show notes in this episode. And then I have some questions about your copy, if you don't mind, unless there was other stuff you wanted to cover on this.
No, go ahead. Dig in, dude. First off, that's like my preliminary. This is my first attempt at it because obviously I can make a video that says all that stuff, right? I can make a landing page, which I already have, but it's not finished. So I said, why wait till it's perfect to get started? I could start just by sending emails. And I've had a pretty good resubscribe rate just from that first effort. People who don't respond to that because it's too much text. I realize it's a lot of text, but the people who do read it, they've already taken advantage of it, right? So the next round, I'll make a video. And the next round, I'll give them the link to the landing page. And if they're not interested, no big deal. If they're not interested earlier than that, they can just say, hey, I'm not interested. No, or they say, hey, here's this other reason or whatever. But I at least have to take action consistently in order to communicate the value, because otherwise nobody's going to know about it. And then I'm going to keep getting the biggest concern that I have from people who have to discontinue their subscription is it's for financial reasons, changes in their financial infrastructure, lost their job, and, incurred some unexpected expense, all these things, right? So I can help take that right off the table by helping these people to just have the skills so they're not in that position going forward. Because I think until you do have those skills, people are going to continue to encounter and re-encounter those positions where it's very uncomfortable because you're in a mindset of scarcity and you don't know how to apply your potential yet to figure that out. And it's a real breath of fresh air to be able to know that's like, oh, I just have to think about it this way. I can apply my skills this way. Or if you're not even at that point, I can add skills here. I could add skills here. Where would it be most valuable in my life to add what skills? But again, these are questions that aren't going to be brought to your attention most other places. And I think that's the real crime right there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, the information's out there. I mean, you can obviously find it if you want it. But it is really a shame that more people don't share it, and it isn't, and it isn't shown to the large
too, man, because if you're interested and you don't have any cash at all and you can't even afford to subscribe to take my class, and that's true for some people, right? So you have access to the internet and you have access to YouTube. You can learn most of what you need to do what you need to do from YouTube for free. But you're going to spend a lot of time and waste a lot of energy and effort wandering around because it's an uncharted wilderness for the most part. And yes, if you know what to search, you can sometimes find a good video on that topic. But you could also benefit from somebody else who's already done all that, figured out, oh, here's the quickest path through this topic. Here's the quickest path through this topic. Here's the quickest path through this topic. And these are all spaces where you can, after learning it, go apply it in real reality and see money come back to you. And you're like, oh, okay, that's an actual skill. It just put money in my pocket. I would like to learn more about this. Or that's a skill. I didn't like it. It didn't put enough money in my pocket, or it's not practical for me. Learn another one. Oh, this one actually fits better. It works for me. Right. So it's about, people aren't going to get to that point to make those decisions and make those choices from high school, college, watching mainstream media, right? So it's like where they want to go and where they need to be and where they would position themselves. You can't get there from where they're at without some people like us building bridges and saying, hey, there's a path off to the side here. It's pretty cool. Nice scenic view. Very rewarding.
Yeah.
Everybody over here is a little bit happier because they have some self-determination going on in their lives. And they're not just, I hope I don't lose my job today. I'm scared they're going to lay me off. Right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
this is really all about the practical application of all the stuff I've been teaching people for the past 13 years. Because first we had to figure out why is the world not the way they taught us it was? And then once you know that, it's okay, so what do we do about it? Can't change everything. I can only control so much. So let's start with myself. Let's figure out where I want to be. What skills do I need to get there? And who do I need to include on this journey? Right?
Absolutely. And I have to say that one of the, I can be a testament to the kind of, I'm one of these people who's tried to, I like reinventing the wheel. I just, for whatever reason, hate listening to people. I'm getting a lot better at this. I realized that it's not that efficient. And so I've kind of stopped.
It's so true, right? It's so true. Trying to reinvent the wheel when you know what, the wheel works pretty good, dude. Let's just figure out how to use the wheel to our advantage.
Right.
Right. But that is a lesson that you have to learn, and a lot of times you don't believe it, and people, learning the hard way is sometimes the only way to learn, because that's the only way that actually teaches you. Right?
Yeah.
So while I try to avoid learning the hard way by thinking ahead, sometimes that has to happen. I don't know why it has to happen. I don't need to provide you a reason why it has to happen. I'm just saying that shit goes on,
dude. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I needed the hard lesson of, you're not that bright, Nick. Yeah, you're going to make some failures and trying to completely rely on yourself.
Well, and the hard lesson for most people in sales is to resist any temptation to take advantage of a customer anytime, any place, anywhere, because what you're not trying to do is create a customer. What you're doing is building a relationship. And by scamming that person or trying to rip them off or offering them, whatever, like that's going to taint the relationship. And you as a business person who works for yourself, even if you work for a company, you're working for yourself because you're building relationships with these people, and you just happen to work for this company. When you go to another company, you still have those relationships, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even about, I'm doing this for my job. No, fuck this job, dude. I can go get another job. But what I'm not going to do is poison my pool of customers and people I've built up trust with, because that would be antithetical to everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that's where most salespeople go wrong. They're like, oh, I'm going to, the used car salesman cliche, right? Well, there's also responsibility on the side of the buyer. Like, you should know that guy is offering you too good to be true offer or whatever, right? I'm not saying the guy who's the one at the used car salesman in this example is right, but there's also a responsibility to share. Like, he couldn't take advantage of people who knew better, right? This is the purpose of education. If you walk past and you're a tourist in New York and you see 3-card money and you see people walking away from that table with money and you go up and try to win money, guess what? You're the sucker. And if you knew that ahead of time, you'd walk past that and never even look at it again. If you don't know that, you're the sucker. And those guys make their living on the suckers every day. And I'm just saying, if you just educated these people, I could say that's wrong to play 3-card money, or I could say, well, we just need to educate people better so that nobody gives them their business. That's what I want. An educated consumer level out there in America, where all these companies that are doing things that are toxic to the world no longer get any business. People won't go there and work there, right? But right now, all they have to do is do a bunch of corporate advertising, do some stuff with the football games, whatever. Like that's the, so yes, America has gotten out of control right now, but it's only because it's a direct result of dumbing down the population. I don't fault the population for that, because they trusted that they were getting a real education in the school system, or they were getting real news from the media, right? So I don't fault them. I'm just saying, now that you recognize what's going on, I would fault somebody for not trying to correct it then, right?
Sure.
But I'm not trying to blame.
No. But yeah, I think that's, I don't know, that's what it comes down to, is that, if there's a problem, how do you solve it?
So these are things we do every day. We solve problems. You might have conflicts or disputes. You communicate ideas. You communicate value. You have a positive mental mindset of who you want to be, where you want to go, where you want to grow, these sorts of things, how you want to treat the people you interact with. That was on those 3 one-page sheets that I shared during the mastermind meeting earlier this week. Those are 3 things that everybody needs to know to be successful in life at some level or another. And they're all 3 things that are not taught for any price in any school, really. Right? So what's the problem there? Well, I guess the problem is no other entrepreneurs have come along before, right now, and solved this problem. So if you see it and you can solve it, I say it's a responsibility, right? So that's kind of like the thinking behind, it's like, I can continue teaching people about all this hidden history, but as long as a lot of people are living in a mindset of scarcity, it's not very fulfilling for them. So I figure let's just take several weeks or a couple months and create a space, a study group that has this skill sets being delivered and people learning it. And then people who come along later, they can just go through the videos, go through the questions, what have you, the worksheets, and they can learn how to practice the same skills. That's why they're called skills, because they're transferable. It's not like my unique talent that I could do this. I'm like, no, I just took this method. I took these skills. I went out and practiced really hard. I was okay with failure. In fact, I embraced failure, the more failure I could get earlier on, the more I could learn and the sooner I could succeed. But today everyone's scared of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think social media has a little bit to do with this. It exacerbates it. But I really think it goes, again, to the school system. Like most people today are scared of public speaking, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's 5 people listening to this show, I'm fine. But if there's 5 million people listening to this show, oh, dude, I'm scared. Where did that conditioning come from? Part of the conditioning is like when you're a kid, they say, don't talk to strangers. Well, too bad, because when you grow up, all you got to do is be able to talk to strangers and communicate with them to meet your needs.
Right.
So there's like these disconnects, and there's a reason for it to have it like with children, but there's not a reason why school at some point, especially like high school. And I know these skills are taught to some students and not others. Like as a, for instance, I had access to a lot of academic resources in high school that weren't offered to most other kids in the same high school. Right. I did mock trial. I did debate. I did all sorts of classes ahead of other people in my grade. And some of these classes, like I just said, like it's the mock trial and debate, that wasn't offered to anybody else really, except for kids in a certain like gifted program. So it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, if you do mock trial in high school and you figure that out, you're like, oh, I could go to law school. Right. And even if you don't succeed at your first career, you can still probably go back to law school. Like there's lawyers everywhere. And the fact that you could teach somebody how to be a lawyer, that's a skill. There's a method, there's a set of steps. You need to know about these things, then you can go practice in this area. Right? If you get a license, pass their exam, right? So that's what Lysander Spooner was all about back in the 1890s. You know who he is, right? Lysander Spooner.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So he was just basically saying, well, why do we need these licenses? And he wrote No Treason, The Constitution of No Authority. That was one of his great books. But this whole idea of wait a minute, you know, it's like, okay, so you're an entrepreneur, you want to go out and help people with their legal problems. Oh, you have to go through this system and be accredited by, you know, this, and this, right? Well, that's one way to do it, but there's probably other ways to do it. And there's not going to be more other ways to do it until some people figure out why it is like it is now and who benefits. And why can't you, if you're, you know, someone who can do good research and a good reader, why can't you represent your neighbor in court? Or can you? Is there a rule where you could do that? You know? So there's all these things that people really never consider because it's not put on their map. Someone says, go to law school. And the next thing you know, they're a lawyer, right? Or be an engineer, or be a doctor, or be an accountant, or be a clerk, right? And all these are noble professions. People work hard in all these various jobs throughout life. And I have respect for all those areas, right? People are working hard everywhere. So I can empathize and I can relate with that. But if you had a clean slate and you could say what you were doing every day for the rest of your life, what would that be? And then why aren't you there? What could you do to get there? How would that start? What would the next action look like? What would the action after that look like? Start to give it some detail. You know, if you're working in a corporate job and you love grooming, you know, dogs, well, you could probably start your own business. Oh, it's too hard. Well, it might be, but taking each step, like the idea overall, yeah, it's a hard idea, but each step might not be that hard. Can you take a step? Well, let's see. Oh, you took a step. Can you take another step? Right? It's just like teaching people, you know, teaching a baby to walk. There's lots of people crawling around and they're like, oh, I wish I could walk. And it's like, oh, it's a process, man. You got to learn to apply yourself, build some muscles, get your balance, be willing to fall down, know how to get up and brush it off. And that's kind of the metaphor that, you know, school has left people in a stage of extended adolescence where in essence, they're still crawling. They haven't learned to walk. They haven't learned to run. They haven't learned to jump. And they haven't learned how to have fun while living. So I could see that as being very discouraging, but also know that once you recognize that sucks, there are ways out of it. Just like I recognized that working as a short order cook wasn't necessarily the best expression of my potential. But until you think about it and try to find other options and keep your eyes open for opportunity, you're likely going to be stuck in whatever you're stuck in now, because that's why you're stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I had a lot of fun. This is one of these conversations where
it's a lot of deep thought.
I can add more, but all I can add is more detail, right?
Just drown you in too much, but I want to give you enough to like start like sparking your inspiration, like piquing your curiosity, getting you to think about some of these different techniques that you could use to accelerate your business to the next level. Because you know what, you're successful, and how many failures between here and successful is up to you. And the timing of those successes is kind of up to you based on how much you research, how fast you learn, how fast you apply this, the method and refine it. So you have total control, right? It's not about the clients don't want to do business. Well, make yourself somebody they want to do business with, make them a great offer, learn from that, improve, and then decide. It's like, well, I have to make the offer so great that it's no longer profitable. Change industry.
Yeah.
Figure out another way, invent a new way. Like I said, you could have people on subscriptions for your meat, and it doesn't have to be year round. It could be seasonal, and you could split it up and rotate it between these different restaurants. So once you figure out what their objections are, you can help and see, if you can create a way that bridges that gap, that meets their needs, that makes their customers superbly happy, that mitigates the risk involved, and still makes it worthwhile for you. And the process of discovering that's what they call sales, right? But every business that has a product or service needs sales. It's not taught in high school, college. It's not taught to you in mainstream media. There's not like a great show where you can be like, hey, I'm going to tune into this show and learn how to do this master craft that's involved in all these businesses, but nobody wants to talk about, because in America, it's a bad name, right? Look at the people that are like on the Forbes 400 richest people. Those dudes are all in sales. Right? You got a Facebook page, you're in sales. You trying to date a woman, you're in sales. The idea is not to misrepresent your product. The idea is, if your product is subpar, raise the quality level of your product. Don't over exaggerate the quality of the product, Yeah. So it's a skill set that I think is rare, and it shouldn't be so rare. And the more popularity it gains, the better off everybody becomes, because from the consumer side, you're a smarter, wiser, thriftier consumer. And from the sales side, you're going to be more successful helping people meet their needs by asking them questions to understand what they're trying to solve, and putting yourself in an active role in helping to provide a solution and making sure that that solution is implemented and they're successful. That's it. Like I said, it's not rocket science. There was no equations other than the mention of a quadratic equation earlier. There's been no math in this episode, or not much, So I have a high optimism that I could take somebody off the street who's homeless or holding a sign at a off ramp. If that person has a cell phone and has connection to the internet, I can show them how to make a living. Not a great living at first, but I can show them how to make $20. I can show them how to make $100. I can show them how to make $500, and at some point they're going to be able to pay rent. Right? Or you could sit out here with your sign and continue to beg for change at these cars. Like, you could be a victim, or you could be an active participant in your destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think what really comes down to, for me, is what do I want out of life, and am I willing to try and get it? And that's that comes down to it is,
what should stop you? Decide what should stop you. Like, if you have to go outside of your morals and ethics and integrity and your family values, that should be a stopping point. That should be the fence. So it's not like unlimited. It's like, it's pretty wide open, but there are limits. You don't want to go past these limits. You don't want to work in the gray area. There's no need. There's so much green area. Right? You don't need to work in the desert over here past the no man's land. Stay in the land of integrity, and everything's bountiful. So I don't know. Is that too many mixed metaphors?
No, I think that's fine. But I don't think I have anything else to add here.
So what's your next step with marketing your business to these restaurants? You're going to come up with some sort of free sample package where you can engage with them freely and be of a giving mentality, and all you want's their feedback?
Yeah, that's what my plan was. I was going to make my my recipe document, kind of just some basic ideas, and maybe another I was going to make Drew Sample, my friend Drew Sample, calls a fresh sheet. I don't know where he got this term, but it describes what do I have and this is what I am. Just a little pamphlet that'll include like a recipe and just some information about yak. And then I was gonna later this afternoon. Actually, I'm gonna call right as soon as we're done after this call. Probably I'm gonna call one guy that I'm intending to work or that I'm intending to call tonight, and then I have another person to call a little bit later. And I'm going to schedule some meetings.
Right after this. Who is he? What's the objective of the call?
This is a guy who owns a restaurant in a nearby town, and my objective is to get him to give me a time where I can come in and talk to him about his business and about yak meat.
Do you want to role play this before you make the call?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
All right, ring, ring. Hello, this is a restaurant. I'm the guy who owns it. I make all decisions. I'm the decider. What do you want?
Hey, I'm Nick Hazelton. I came by a while ago. I dropped you off some yak, and I was curious to know what you thought of it.
You're the kid with long hair?
Yes, that's me.
Yak farmer, huh? How'd you get in that line of business?
I decided I wanted to do something different with my life and get into raising animals. I like agriculture and sustainability. So I just decided I wanted to get into agriculture. I found yaks, thought they were pretty cool. So I decided I'm going to raise them, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good animals. So I really enjoy them.
Well, I've never heard of anyone your age being into that. I mean, you can't be more than 24, 25. How many years have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for a couple of years. I'm 19 now.
What?
This is, yeah.
What'd you do? Drop out of high school?
I did. I dropped out of, I didn't finish my sophomore year, and then I stopped. I decided this was a better idea.
Who else buys your meat?
Right now, I'm selling to a restaurant in Newport, Zach's Bistro, and then I also sell at the Corvallis Farmers Market.
And Zach's number? I know. Let me call Zach and see what he says about your meat.
Oh, I don't have Zach's number off the top of my head,
right
but
there,
I can definitely find it. Yeah.
Now you know. You want to call Zach and say, hey, if I give you some extra meat next month, can you take a couple phone calls if somebody wants a referral?
Sure.
Get his permission. And then as soon as somebody says they're going to call, that guy, then you send him a text, say, do you have somebody's going to call and ask you. Because that way he has a heads up because he's running the restaurant, right? And that shit's crazy. So,
right.
Okay. So value number one, you just figured like there's an obstacle right there. Because the moment that you don't have that, this guy's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have that, holy shit, this guy's prepared and I can call this guy. I don't even need to call this guy now. This guy wouldn't have given me this guy's number if I wasn't going to get, so I don't even need to hear how great he thinks it is, whatever. So what's it going to cost me? Right?
Are you asking that
so I took
as
you out
the guy?
Of the commentary and I'm back into the role play. So you had that guy's number. You gave it to me. I don't even need to call him. So now I'm asking you a buying question. What's it going to cost me?
So right now I don't have anything priced out. I'm
don't know what answer.
Yeah, I know it is.
It's not going to cost you anything. It's actually going to make you a lot of money, Mr. Manager. Here's how. Right? Over at Jack's restaurant or whoever your other clients are, you might not want to give them the same one because you just gave one as a referral. Now you can use another one of your clients as a reference, and now you're building out the scope of your business. Over here at Jack's restaurant, they decided that $200 a month was something that they could keep on special, and it goes out of stock just at the right time so that they don't have too much left over and people are left wanting, right? But they're still making good money on it. So you just show them an example of one of your other successful customers, and now he has an idea, and then he says, my company doesn't work like that. We work like this. And you say, well, I'm open to working like that too. I see no problem in that, right? So at this point, if you have a reference and you have an example of how he could buy, or you have some options of how he could buy, or you'll get to, I need to try it first. Great. I have a sample package and I have 3 recipes, one of which is sure to meet your needs, to meet your palate. You know what I'm saying? So take a little bit of time and think about your phrasing. That's what I just proved right there. But this is okay. Why this is spontaneous.
Absolutely.
This is what I enjoy because it's all about mental problem solving. Right? You're trying to help somebody else out, whether I'm consulting right here or you're talking to the client. It's all the same thing, dude. That's why I'm just so shocked that they're simple yet complex skills that need, practice and refinement. I don't want to make it sound easier or harder than it is. It's necessary. It's worth it to put your energy into developing these skills, because not only can I support myself, but I can afford to help you. Right. And what I help you and you learn the success, you're going to have that skill for the rest of your life, and you're probably going to share it with other people. Right.
Yeah.
Cool shit. Right.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So
you're on the call, you're trying to get this appointment scheduled, but you might actually close a deal. And you might actually collect some new objections, some of which you might be able to handle. You might hear some complaints, which are things that people might say, which aren't really deal breakers. I don't really like the smell of yak meat until it's cooked. I agree with you, sir.
Sure.
So don't make an objection out of something that's just a complaint. That's a good technique right there. And know how to recognize something that's like, well, I can't buy it for sanitary reasons. Oh, well, let me show you how, we're checked out, or we have the approval or license, or however they do the business in Oregon. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's just a hypothetical. I'm not saying anything about your business is not clean. I was just saying they're going to throw you a variety of things, and your goal is to know about all those things before you actually go and start closing the bigger deals. So
right.
You practice on these 20 or 30 restaurants, learn all the objections, get some customers, get some referrals, and now you know how to go to those restaurants that charge $500 for 2 people to eat for the night. And that restaurant alone might pay you top dollar for a portion of your meat, just so they have some special, because that's pretty exotic for them, right?
Yeah.
So it's all how you present it. So like the thing I said about your hair, that's not a deal. I'm just trying to figure out, oh, you're the guy with the long hair. I remember you.
Right. That's
not a complaint. Like at worst, it's a complaint, but at first, it's just an observation. It's not a judgment. It's not a deal breaker. It's not that, I don't do business with hippie people with long hair. I like it high and tight. Whatever. It's like, so people will say stuff like that, but that's not the thing they're objecting to. That's not the thing that's keeping you from having your yak meat served on their plates. So the sooner that you can start to recognize these situations, discard the noise, tune into the signal, when someone gives you resistance, meaning we're not interested, we're all set, they'll say, oh, we'll give you a better deal. Well, price wasn't the objection. So now you're just being a dumb business person by lowering your price, because they didn't say they had a, objection against price. You didn't even find out what the objection was. You just dropped your pants. Right? If price is the objection, then you handle that objection. And you might not have to lose money depending on how you structure it. You might be able to say, well, I'll give you an introductory price, and then you make up that introductory price later. But as an entrepreneur, you get to make all these decisions. So it's like Windows versus Apple, right? Corporate world, unfortunately, it's like the Apple. It's like locked in. This is how you do it. Whereas in the PC world, it's like, I need another video card for what I'm doing, or I need this, or I need that, or I want to just pimp it out on memory, right? So it's a flexibility thing. So entrepreneurism is like a PC as compared to corporate world is like a Mac. And I know a lot of corporate world uses PCs. That's not the metaphor I was drawing there.
Sure.
Yeah, and these on the fly metaphors, they need a little work. They need a little time. It's like a comedian coming up with a joke for the first time. It's not funny the first time. They got to work on the wording.
Sure.
They got to test it out, put it through some paces. But I was just trying to make a mental illustration for people who are listening. Other than I want to make sure you understand too, Nick. But
absolutely, I understand.
To the audiences, your audience, my audience, they're both listening. It's a lot of pressure, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how many people are in your audience, but I've got 50 downloads. It might be around average for a Yakkin with Nick episode so far. It depends on how often I'm podcasting. It's my consistency problem. That's why I don't have very much of an audience. But
if I don't pass it around on my own link, maybe we can get you more than 50 listens on this one.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good.
Right?
That'd be good. That'd be nice. Let me ask you this question. So one of my issues with the pricing is I don't really know what works for this person. So this is my, like, I'm thinking now after we had that issue, I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to lead in and say it's $12 because that's why I sell it for retail. But I don't think I'm going to sell $12 a pound to a restaurant owner. But I'm thinking about, like, yeah, okay, I'm asking you and I'm sort of already figuring out the answer. So I'm thinking of, I'm just going to decide if I say it's 12 and I can come up with a margin, if you sell it for $16, you take your third pound burger, you're just taking my pound for $12 and you're splitting it into three. That's $4 a burger, and then you charge that for, it's a $15 burger. You've got some greens and some bread there, so altogether it costs you, right, $8 to make.
So let's just back it up. Let's say it's an $18 yak steak that the restaurant's going to sell for $36. It's a highfalutin restaurant, and it's going to be a nice cut of meat. I apologize for the phone ringing. It's so unprofessional. But this is one podcast that I didn't take the phone off the hook for.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I just had some buzz in my
handsets are like floating around, so I just have I don't have access to like turn it off. They're just the bass ringing in here. All right, so yak steak, $18. Restaurant going to sell it for $36. That's 100% markup for them. And now you have a price set. And the process of sales is simply communicating the value that indicates that price. Here's why that steak is worth $18 as opposed to a steak you could buy for $11 for the same weight. It's the end user experience, right? It's going to be juicier. It's going to, describe how it tastes as compared to like steak or pork or bison, something that people have reference to so they can compare and contrast. If you like steak, this is more like this cut of steak as far as the tenderness or chewiness, but it has this flavor that might remind you of this, right? Because you're trying to describe something they have yet to taste. You want to pique their curiosity. This might be really good meat, right? Like I've heard Joe Rogan rant about how good elk tastes. I've had venison a lot, I've had bear, I've had a variety of, bird species, grouse and turkey and duck and things like this. But I haven't had elk. And I got to say, that was a good advertisement. It sounded like it tasted really good, right? So if I were to be an elk hunter and I were to shoot an elk, it would probably taste pretty good. But these people are working in the restaurant. They're not going out and getting these animals, and they're not hunting these animals. So they're getting an animal from a farm that you raised. So you can tell them about the quality of care that went into, because you're producing people's food. Tell them how serious you take that. Right? You're making this a way of life. You're making this a lifestyle to be able to provide this. And you're only going to be able to provide a few select restaurants. So this isn't the type of thing that's going to be everywhere. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a variety of skills that you need to bring to action in these situations. There's communication skills, there's observation skills, there's problem solving skills, there's body motion interpretation skills. Oh, this guy just crossed his arms. He didn't like what I just said. He's being standoffish, right? That's not a pose of agreement, right? In most cases. I'm not making like specific rules. I'm just saying you can tell people's body language if you just said something that turned them off, right? Like if you're in there pitching meat and then you say the word anarcho-capitalism and I saw something about that on the news. Like you just muddied your whole situation. No need to bring that into the sales conversation. He may or may not agree, but politics need not be involved in this transaction of life-sustaining food.
Right.
So it's not something you pick up in one day, but it is something you pick up by practicing and doing exactly what you've been doing and noticing where you might improve and gathering honest feedback from these people, right? So like the thing that gets in the way of everyone's communication is usually fear. And so if you can create a fear-free way to go in there and succeed by failing, right? Fail, but be observant. Like learn from what you just did. Oh, I went in there and I left my fly down and you could see my underwear. Oh, how embarrassing. Okay, not going to have that happening. Whatever it might be. Like, I'm just saying, Murphy's Law applies. Anything that can go wrong usually will go wrong. But knowing about Murphy's Law allows you to plan for that. Right?
Exactly.
So it's like there's some downsides, but there's also counterbalances. But those counterbalances all involve you invoking your power of learning. right?
Mm-hmm.
So what obstacles do you think are standing in your path of success right now in getting this into whatever restaurants you want, whatever you think you can handle, and scale up slowly? Because it takes time to make the yak meat.
Yeah, I think my obstacles is I need to know more about the business of taking meat from a farmer and selling it. I think what do I need to know about it? I don't know, because then I'd probably be able to, then I probably wouldn't need to know about it.
Okay, so you may cut to the chase, dude. Let me just save you like 20 seconds of wandering around.
Mm-hmm.
That guy that that made $1 million selling yak meat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go interview him for your podcast.
Yeah.
Line up all the questions you have about your business. Ask him how he solved those. You're going to make a friend. You're going to meet a colleague. You're going to make a great podcast episode, and you're going to learn the difference between what you're doing and what he's doing. And even though you might not want to go that far, you might find the happy medium, and you might make a 5-year plan to get to that happy medium. Right?
Yeah.
Is that a better plan than you had 30 seconds ago?
Yeah, it's a lot better of a plan.
Okay. That's my value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Distilling large data sets into comprehensive, cogent little pieces of nuggets and instruction. Not even instruction. I'm just saying, here's the situation, and then you can decide whether or not you want to take action like that. Totally up to you. I'm not looking to tell anyone what to do other than consider developing your potential. And if people are interested in that, that's what I've been doing for a living for 13 years. Since I retired from the corporate world.
That's really valuable.
Since, man. Tell you what, man. On any given day, no matter the problems I've faced as an entrepreneur, it's all been more rewarding than any given day making a bunch of money at those corporations.
Sure.
So yes, it's tough, challenging, arduous, blah, blah, blah. So is doing something you don't love. It's actually harder. I'm doing the easy thing, in my estimation, because it would be harder for me to compromise my values, integrities, ethics, and morals and do all that shit for a bunch of pieces of paper that aren't worth anything except debt in the future. Or I could live my own life. Right? I could spend time with my family. I could make real friends and not have to depend on the social media world to validate myself and my competence.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying there's another path out there. Sometimes you make it yourself. And I'm not saying take the same path I took. I'm just saying you have the ability to make your own path. You're already doing that. Right? I think your parents have been a really, really good influence on you. And that makes me appreciate, I can tell how smart they are, dude. Because, I've talked to your dad on the call. He's a very smart guy, and he seems to be a great father. And so you're in a fortunate position because there's a lot of people in the world that don't have that situation. So you have a moral responsibility to develop your potential and use that situation that you have right now as a great incubator or testing bed or safe zone with the safety net, like I mentioned, to try to figure out what you want to do in life, because it's not always going to be there like that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Carpe diem.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow. This is why I love doing this podcast. It's just so many times. I have so many of these episodes where I'm just sitting here listening. I'm like, what do I say next? What do I add on to that? It's great information. And all I really feel like is okay, now go out and do it, Nick. I don't know what else to say there.
You don't have to say anything else, dude. They have this another Latin saying. It says, "Whatever you want to teach, be brief." I follow that in the Peace Revolution all the time.
Yeah. 24 hours is brief. God, man, those are fun episodes. Those are really fun to listen to.
Day-long podcast. Is that what
it's such an accomplishment when you finish it after
feels
the
an
third day.
For me, when I finish it, because each episode these days takes 6 months because it's not the only thing I'm doing anymore, and I don't want to just do them quickly. There's a natural flow and artistic creative process that takes place to create each one of those episodes, and not spending full time just doing that. I don't want to be disingenuous to my process, because in order to do it, I have to listen to a lot more media than I actually include in the episode. Then I find the most interesting parts out of that. Then I select stuff. Then I go in and find the most interesting parts of that. And there's a whole bunch. And I like that. I like the outcome of the method. I don't like how long it takes. But instead of acquiescing to, I want to make more episodes quicker, I'm like, no, I'm going to just do what I do. And as I have time to chip away, it'll get done. It's not the single most important point of my focus. It's important, but also a lot of the other activities that are providing real value to people and actually changing their lives instead of just like them listening and then them looking some stuff up and they learn some stuff. It's like I'm teaching things now that are actually helping people who have just lost their job and they're trying to get a new job, or they've just lost their job and they're trying to figure out if they could actually support themselves and not have to go get a new job. Right. And I think that's important, at least right now, to put some time into, because the effects of it are going to be so long lasting that it's a good investment right now for, a couple weeks or several weeks or a couple months of focused action can have a long-term payoff for a lot of people. So that's a change I'm interested in making in the world. And that's why I'm focusing on that, as well as my book project and my film project and the next episode of Peace Revolution.
Yeah. Well, how about we wrap up with that? Because I've held you for a long time and I've got quite a bit out of you. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, this has been fantastic. I can't wait to get this out and re-listen to it. And get out there and talk to some more chefs. So with that, yeah, why don't you plug again your subscription? You've given me this subscription to Tragedy and Hope for free when I met you at PorkFest last year, and I've found quite a bit of value in it. So even without this free $2,000 course, I think it's well worth being in the. Do you call it the deep end or not? That's one of the things you do in your subscription. That's one of the shows I
do for subscribers. But for the past 9 years, the annual membership for the Tragedy and Hope online research and learning community has been $120. So until the end of this year, it's still $120, and you're going to get access to this free course that I'm going to be delivering over the next several weeks, couple months. And it also has a bunch of subscriber-only content, like the Deep End, Dive into Consciousness. That's a roundtable video show that I've been producing for about the past 2 years. Prior to that, I did 2 seasons of a series called History So It Doesn't Repeat. Prior to that, I did another 20 or 24 episodes of Tragedy and Hope Casual Cafe. So I'm continually evolving and producing new subscriber-only content on top of the research groups. Like one of the research groups in the community, I think there's like 60+ groups. Some of them are more popular than others. One of the more popular ones is the Trivium group or the Critical Thinking and Logic group. The Entrepreneur group is the one that's really hot right now because so many people need some additional income. And I found out that a lot of my subscribers actually own their own businesses. Surprise, surprise. So there's a ton of people who I'm finding about their business. I can help them with their business in a variety of ways. And it's a real spark of inspiration to be able to provide value to so many people so quickly, because I was pretty much ignoring this aspect of my own business and of their businesses, in years past, and just focusing on who is the New World Order and what are they doing? What's their agenda? And what can we do about it? Well, when you get down to it, the agenda is to dumb down the population. So what can we do about it? We can start to fill in that blind spot with education and learning. And that's why I've created a curriculum called Autonomy, that teaches, I think the outline was like 40 different separate skills, but they're not all, some of them go together. But there's a whole bunch of different skills in a skill set that would teach you everything from not having any income to having some income to building more recurring income and remaining independent the whole time. Plus the layering of skills like sales, marketing, copywriting, knowing how to be able to present your offer on the web, knowing how to present it on the phone, knowing how to, handle all these various aspects of running your own business or earning online income that we're not taught about in school. So that's what I've been focused on. I've been wading into it for the past 6 weeks with some posts, and I've been preparing. Like today, I was evaluating webinar software. So at the point where I have the content, I have it on note cards. I'm putting it into PowerPoint presentations. I'm going to deliver it to a webinar that people in the group can subscribe to, and then they can ask questions, and we can all make progress. So tragedyandhope.com is the website. The podcast Peace Revolution is under audio, or you can go to peacerevolution.org. And to subscribe, it's tragedyandhope.com/subscribe, and all the options are right there.
Absolutely. And I will drop all of those links in the show notes for you to check out. Just go out there. And with that, thank you for listening. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye. Okay. Cool.
All right. You're all good.
All right.
Did you have any last questions, dude?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure I could go back over my notes and find something, but yeah. Well, I'll go out and I'll implement and see what happens. It's cool. I better get off. I need to call some restaurant owners. In fact.
There you go.
But
That's
yeah,
what I'm talking
thanks
about.
again.
Motivation. Get a plan. Make some calls. Don't hang up the phone in between. Just hit the thing that resets the call. You'll save like 3 seconds a call.
Really?
You'll be able to make more calls in a day.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep that phone up to your ear. Use your other hand. Hit that thing, just like a broker does.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Tell yourself
Cool.
you're gonna make how many calls you're gonna make? 10 calls?
No, I was planning on making. I think I'm making 3 tonight. Yeah,
Okay,
3
so
tonight.
that sounds like a good plan. But you know what? If you really want 3 to work out, you should call 9.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Your business could dramatically change by making 9 calls tonight. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to test yourself? Who cares, dude? Just do it. Start doing it. And before you're done, you're like, oh, shit, I made 9 calls. I wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know what information you need before you get off the call, whether it's a commitment to an appointment or, commitment to follow up with them or whatever, and make sure. So create yourself a blank sheet. Here's what you need to do before you get off this call. Go in a Word document, make yourself a blank sheet. Be like restaurant name, contact name, phone number, spoke to. They said what? What was their objection? What was their thing? Next step is, and that way you don't forget because you're going to be making 9 phone calls. You don't want to get confused. Now you have a template for every time you pick up the phone to be successful. And if you're not successful, you'll know how to be successful next time or be able to strategize how to be successful in 2 or 3 calls.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound doable?
It's really doable.
Part of sales is getting people to agree to their own responsibilities, right? You learn that in the mastermind group. People have responsibilities. Yeah. We name them for ourselves. We punish ourselves if we don't make them, And I think most of the time we feel bad enough that if we didn't meet our obligation, like nobody else has to chastise us. What is that thing that Daryl says all the time?
Self-punishment protocol.
Yeah. Inflict your self-punishment protocol.
Yeah, absolutely.
So make it your goal. You're going to make 9 phone calls. You're going to fail 9 times, but you're going to fail with perfection. And you're going to fail by getting these details, which really sets you up for success in the long run.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to make 9. I'm going to find, I have like 5 potential restaurants I know of in that town. I'm going to find more, or I'm going to choose another town. Cool. All right. But
and now is not dinner time out there. So now is a good time to talk to managers of restaurants.
It is the perfect time.
Right. So you learned a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Seize the day. Tell me about your success.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Will do.
All right.
Bye.
Peace, Nick.